They say certain moments arrive like a whisper in the dark, unannounced, gentle, and before you can catch your breath, they've rewritten the map of your heart. It was meant to be an ordinary evening, the sort where two souls settle into the familiar glow of a lamplit room, sharing stories that bridge the gaps time has carved between you. I never saw it coming, the words that slipped from his lips, the depth in his gaze, the way it peeled back layers we'd both kept tucked away for decades. But hold on a second, before I pour this out, where are you tuning in from this evening? Drop a line in the comments about your corner of the world. It warms me to know who's sharing this space with me tonight. Get comfortable, because what I'm weaving here is raw, it's real, and it still echoes in the quiet corners of my days whenever I sink into that old armchair by the hearth. Let's step into it. I'm Elena, 58 these days, though on good mornings when the sun filters through the lace curtains just right, I feel like I could chase the horizon without looking back. Life has a way of piling on the expected, nurturing little ones into their own wings. Clocking hours at a job that pays the lights but steals your spark, ironing out the wrinkles in endless routines while your joints protest softly. You tell yourself someday the puzzle will click, that clarity will bloom like morning dew. But clarity? It doesn't arrive in a tidy package. Instead, it sneaks in through these fragile instants that cling to your skin like dew on a petal. My boy, Marcus, he's 33 now. And let me be clear from the jump, this isn't some tangled web of the forbidden or the fraught. Far from it. It's a tapestry of the heart's quiet rebellions. Raw openness, the ache of being truly witnessed, the surprise of affection that blooms in the safest harbors when you're bone-tired from navigating storms alone. That evening, I just tidied the last of the supper dishes, the steam from the sink still curling like forgotten secrets. The cottage hummed with that post-dusk peace, and I'd steeped a pot of chamomile tea, the kind that unfurls herbal notes sharp enough to chase away the day's edges. You know the scent? Earthy, soothing, like a hug from an old friend. I carried the tray into the den, where he lounged by the stone fireplace, thumbing through a stack of dog-eared novels we'd scavenged from the local flea market. Choose something light, I murmured, easing into the armchair across from him with a contented exhale. No plots that twist my thoughts into knots tonight. He glanced up, that crooked grin flashing, the one that used to melt my worries when he was knee-high and scabbed from backyard adventures. Even now, grown and etched with his own miles, it tugged at me, urging me to smooth the stray lock from his brow. You mean one of those feel-good tales? He ribbed gently. Unless it's got folks who look perpetually windswept and wise, without a single rain-mussed morning. We settled on a gentle memoir read aloud, narrated in a voice smooth as river stones, enough warmth to draw us in, but not so piercing it'd leave us hollow by the ember's end. Or so I believed. The fire crackled low, casting amber flickers across the woven rug in our faces, while outside, rain pattered against the panes like tentative fingers. He reclined against the cushions, one hand draped lazily over the armrest, and I nestled the teacups between us, a ritual honed by seasons of unspoken accord. Midway through the chapter, a hush fell, heavier than the downpour. He pivoted toward me, deliberate, his eyes lingering a beat beyond casual. I figured he'd pause to muse on a passage, perhaps recall if the author had penned something we'd cherished before. But no words came. Just that gaze, steady and searching. What is it? I ventured, a playful lilt in my tone to mask the flutter. Tea leaf stuck to my chin? Nah, he replied, his timbre dropping to a rumble beneath the narrator's cadence. Just reflecting. I arched a brow, feigning nonchalance. A risky pastime, no chuckle followed. Instead, his expression softened into something that squeezed my ribs, a prelude to revelation. His words emerged hushed, threading the air like smoke. Ever get the sense we've left threads dangling? All these years you and I weathering the gales side by side. But I keep circling back to what I might have held back. Questions unasked, truths unspoken. I set the book aside, the room thickening with a stillness that wrapped us like fog rolling in from the sea. My grip tightened on the saucer's edge, porcelain cool against my palm. Dangling threads? I echoed, measured. Marcus, you've been my anchor through it all. No debts between us. He leaned in, forearms braced on his thighs, the firelight etching shadows along his jaw. That's the heart of it, though, isn't it, Elena? I've always pegged you as this pillar, unyielding, fierce, but these days I'm haunted by one thing. Who holds you up when the ground shakes? That query landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading to places I'd long boarded over. I traced the rim of my cup, these hands, scarred from cradling his fevered brow in infancy, steering him clear of heartaches, applauding his triumphs under stage lights, mending the invisible fractures of growing pains and simmering pots through weary nights. Hands I'd schooled to clench, to conceal, to soldier on in silence. I suppose I mastered the art of standing solo, I confessed after the pause stretched thin. Marcus reached over, easing the tray from my lap to the side table with a tenderness that belied his strength. His tone wrapped around me, genuine as hearth warmth. You don't have to shoulder it in isolation. Not when I'm right here? Our eyes locked then. And in that bridge of glances, I glimpsed not merely my son, but a man who pierced the veil, seeing me not as the eternal guardian, but as Elena, a woman who'd hauled burdens in the shadows, who'd whispered her weariness to empty rooms. The instant didn't stretch eternal, nor did it need to. It simply was, pure, unadorned. A breath escaped me, feather-light. I needed that more than words can carry. His fingers brushed mine, a fleeting clasp. No demands, no weight, just the balm of being truly met. That profound ease where you're cradled in your entirety, revered without condition. We abandoned the reading that night, letting words weave their own path instead. Whispers of yesterdays, confessions of tomorrows, the sprawl of existence laid bare. And it dawned on me. Affection doesn't always roar like thunder. It doesn't parade in bouquets or spotlight sweeps. Sometimes it's perching fireside with one who's cataloged your every bloom and wilt, electing to inhabit the hush wholly, for one unhurried evening in the den's embrace. Sleep eluded me that night, not from turmoil, but from a stirring deep within, like stirring honey into dawn's first light, slow and sweet. Marcus's murmurs lingered in my veins, and with each closed eye I sensed their imprint, a velvet cloak draped over my frame, reassuring, laden with import. Dawn crept in hushed, the cottage bathed in that pre-awakening serenity, sparrows murmuring beyond the glass, the kettle's faint whistle summoning steam, pale rays threading the shutters like silken threads. Marcus was awake before me, perched at the oak table with steam rising from his mug, gaze adrift toward the mist-shrouded garden. I lingered in the threshold, unobserved, drinking in the sight of him. Odd, isn't it? How you can shepherd a life from cradle to crossroads, chronicle every evolution, and still stumble upon them anew, as if unveiling a cherished portrait dusted off after years. His curls tousled from restless pillows, a subtle weariness in his slouch, yet an undercurrent of serenity. Early riser today, I noted, patting in on bare feet, the floorboards cool and familiar. He turned, that half-smile blooming. Rest was fleeting. Tell me about it. I claimed my brew and slid into the seat opposite. Silence bloomed between us, companionable, restorative, like cradling a delicate bloom, unwilling to shatter its poise with chatter. Then his eyes met mine anew, contemplative rather than fervent. Mind if I probe a bit? Always. When did you tuck away your aspirations? The ones that lit you up inside? The words struck true, a gentle prod to a tender spot. I swirled my tea languidly, feigning deliberation, though the reply bloomed unbidden. After your dad drifted away, I said, voice a murmur. It felt like the world had shifted. No one seemed hungry for those stories anymore. Marcus's brow furrowed, a shadow crossing his features. I always was. I offered a tender curve of lips. Darling, you were barely 10. Stability was the gift I poured into you. Aspirations? They slipped to the margins of the calendar. He eased back, his scrutiny peeling back veils to the untold verses of my path. Perhaps that's the thread I overlooked, he mused. What do you mean? I got so wrapped in what you poured into me, I missed the echoes of what you surrendered. Prickles gathered at my lashes, unbidden. Rare that, someone honoring not the bold forfeits, but the daily hush of them, the ones etched in solitude, unseen. I once dreamed of a wee herb garden shop, I ventured, a chuckle threading the admission. You know, tucked in a lane, brimming with potted sages and lavenders, shelves groaning under jars of dried blooms that whispered of far-off fields. Marcus's eyes sparked. What held you back? A lift of shoulders. Ledgers that wouldn't balance, pantries to stock, leaks in the roof, and you, most of all. That final syllable drew a subtle wince from him, but I bridged the table, enfolding his hand in mine. And I'd trade none of it, I hastened. You were the wildflower in my wildest plot. He inclined his head, as if etching the confession into memory's clay. It might not be too late, he offered. For the shop, or for chasing those whispers again. I arched a brow, amusement flickering. To till soil and petal petals at my age? A soft laugh escaped. Then I held his gaze truly. He stood apart from the lad who'd leaned on me as compass. Here was a man, extending a hand not from obligation, but from a wellspring of regard and fondness. I felt it in his cadence now, in how his eyes delved, not skimmed. Curious, how equilibriums tilt. When the nurtured begins to shoulder fragments of the load, it unfolds stealthily at first. A sack of soil hauled from the market, a note to pause amid the whirl, the gaze that affirms your essence beyond roles. That afternoon, we wandered the winding paths of the glen. Nothing grand, just the crunch of leaves underfoot, the scent of damp earth rising. Yet the world shimmered altered. The wind's caress on my cheeks felt buoyant, his stride synced to mine, neither leading nor trailing. I moved as if unburdened, a forgotten satchel slipped from my grasp at last. I've been mulling, he said as we crested a rise, voice laced with that boyish spark. I halted, curiosity piqued. Oh? He met my eyes earnest. I'm eyeing a sabbatical from the grind. My steps faltered fully. Why the sudden shift? Because I crave this, us. Not out of necessity, but choice. The city's clamor chases shadows. But here, with you, I unearth a peace that's eluded me. My pulse quickened, an indescribable swell blooming. Marcus, you owe me no such pivot. Not for you, beside you. His words hung vivid. We could nurture something joint. A humble venture, herbs, curios, brews we blend hand in hand. Nothing vast, just ours. The notion ignited, a spark kindling to flame in my core. For the first time in an age, I permitted fancy's flight. Not mere endurance, but vitality. Crafting, communing anew with the one who mapped my marrow best. We traced the loop in wordless tandem after. But the quiet had transmuted, brimming with nascent visions, veiled yearnings, the nascent bud of an unnamed pact. As twilight cloaked the cottage that eve, lying amid the linens, epiphany settled. I transcended mere maternity. I was evolving into ally, co-traveler on uncharted trails. And whatever dawn unveiled, I'd greet it vigilant, receptive, companioned at last. The ensuing days unfolded with subtlety, not fanfare, but in those nuanced drifts that etch deepest. We synced into a cadence afresh, supple and abundant. Marcus lingered beyond his initial stay, a handful of sunrises stretching to a fortnight, perhaps more. We both sensed it, a portal of candor too precious to hasten shut. He wove into the homestead's pulse organically, not diminishing my stride, but amplifying it, stacking cordwood unbidden, oiling the creaky garden gate that had grated for seasons. One midday, I drifted into the scullery to find him alphabetizing my herb tins, a bemused tilt to his efforts. You tending spices? Do you even brew beyond toast? I teased, mirth bubbling. He pivoted, eyes twinkling. Passably. But I reckoned if I commune with rosemary and thyme long enough, alchemy might strike. Start with spelling saffron right then, he mock-scowled, resuming his task. It was amid these everyday tapestries that another truth surfaced. His nearness delighted me. Not solely as kin, but as complement. Our rhythms harmonious, dialogues fluid as streamlets, laughter rippling freer than in years untold. One vesper, as dusk bled crimson through the boughs, we claimed the veranda with flagons of nettle infusion. That honeyed gloaming artist covet bathed the balustrade. He sprawled in the rocker, toes bare against the planking, locks rumpled from an indolent doze. I cocooned in the knit afghan he ribbed as my worry web. Recall those porch vigils where I'd coax tales of your schoolyard crushes? I reminisced. He guffawed softly. Interrogating me till I stammered colors I invented. And today? His glance lingered, weighted yet warm. Today I interrogate echoes I never anticipated voicing. A pause then. Like, did I ever grasp love's true shape? I pivoted languidly, chest constricting. I figured that lass from 2 springs back had claimed your heart, I offered, soft as the settling light. Believed so once, he conceded, But hindsight whispers I chased utility, not union. I savored my sip, his admission misting the air between. And now? What calls? His regard unfolded, unguarded, a quiet verity. Presence, he breathed. To forge enduring roots, not fleeting blooms. Not with phantoms from youth's sketchbook, but one who renders silence symphonic. I inclined slowly. Wise words. His fingers grazed my temple, tucking a wanderer's strand. A whisper of touch, yet it snagged my inhale. He noted, but held his peace, withdrawing to his knee with contemplative eyes. Steady? He queried, velvet low. Uncertain, I owned. Feels like treading fresh earth. I dread a stumble. We tread true, he assured. Beneath lay an unuttered current, yet we skirted its name. Not entanglement, not enigma, rather a verity of souls, vulnerability's forge, a bond eluding pat phrases. That gloaming, as I readied for repose, a tap ghosted my chamber door. There stood Marcus, tome in hand, an aged volume, spine cracked like old leather. You raved of this scribe moons ago, he said. Thought we might share a stanza. I beheld it, a relic I'd forsaken to attic shadows. I'd idly evoked it, rummaging shelves days prior, and he'd archived the echo. Thoughtful, I murmured, yielding passage. He perched on the bed's lip as I drew quilts close. Lamplight gilded the leaves, his timbre weaving the chamber like incantation. Time curling inward, a threshold to sanctuary eternal, hallowed, irreplaceable. Yet beneath that haven swirled an ebb, an unnamed tide. Not carnal pull, simplistic. It was discernment, the grace of raw unveiling, treasured for sheer being, unearned. The stanza waned. He sealed the pages, gaze questing. Holding steady? That refrain had woven into habit, tender reckonings, anchoring. Beyond steady, I confided, hushed. It's indescribable, this shift weaving us. No need to pin it, he soothed. We'll navigate. Then, unforeseen, he bridged the space, lips brushing my brow. No theater, no charge, just purpose, profundity. He withdrew soundlessly, leaving me adrift on pillows, tracing plaster constellations, attuned to the cottage's nocturnal sigh. We ventured emotional frontiers, yet not astray, more akin to reclaiming a dialect long muted, forged in solicitude, candor, intimacy unbound by skin, bound by abiding. It was exquisite, and it daunted, for when one's armored lifetimes, bearing the core demands valor unmatched. Dawn found me at the scullery casement, flagon cradled, witnessing heavens graduate from dove gray to topaz. Rays spilled over worktops, and I basked brow to sill, inhaling the now. Mutation had bloomed, not confined to hearthside, but marrow deep. There's that singular juncture, elusive, where solitude's yoke lifts. You're no longer girding against tempests, but yielding to their song. Thus it felt. Marcus slumbered yet, his respirations a distant cadence through plaster. And for once, I shirked the matron's haste or the weary's tally. I simply inhabited, intact. He emerged anon, tresses awry, tunic creased from dreams. His smile bridged unspoken nocturnal missives. Dawn, he rasped, gravel-timbered. Dawn. Words sufficed not. He claimed his cup, joining my vigil at table. We savored that hearthside truce, profound ease incarnate. Yet dialogue loomed inevitable. Reflections brewing, he ventured at length, eyeing his steam. I may extend my roots here beyond the blueprint. I glanced, pulse quickening. Indeed. Aye, proximity not fleeting, scaffolding a tapestry woven for us both. I appraised him, bosom burgeoning with vastness untitled, love, assuredly yet transcending lineage's mantle. Filial's veil, a soul's alliance, tempered in solitary crucibles, alchemized to haven mutual. That calls to me too, I whispered. No monikers, no oaths, just essence. A subterranean flow, resolute and serene. That midday, we delved the disused conservatory, mausoleum of yours relics, crates teetering with tarnished lanterns, orphaned frames, a forsaken loom gathering motes. Vision for this nook? He queried, draping a frayed cloth from a wicker seat. I surveyed, conjuring plush mats, nooks for tomes, perhaps wing chairs, and a perpetual simmer of infusions on a pedestal. It yearns rebirth, I mused. A sanctuary for verses, perhaps scripting. A haven to rekindle fancies. He beamed across the dust motes. Ours to claim. That pledge echoed weeks. We limed the panes that Sabbath, a pale sage hue. We seeded sills with fern fronds. I unearthed my leather-bound ledger. He drafted vignettes for a digital nook. Rare volumes, forged talismans, elixirs we'd co-craft. Modest, muted, yet vivacious. One crepuscule, knees grazing in our fledgling realm, I turned. Would the world fathom us? He regarded, poised. Their grasp isn't our compass, I nodded, truth resonant. Ours defied dissection, meant for stewardship, authenticity, unbowed. Intimacy's rarer vein pulses beyond the scripted, not pyres or pageants, but attendance, profound heed, traversing tempests to elect tenderness. That's Marcus and I unearthed, not tittle-tattle fodder, but companionship sublime, two givers at last reciprocating in haven carved mutual. The morrow's shape? Uncharted. Whether we'd christen this burgeoning, I couldn't foretell. But fear had fled, not of isolation, scorn, or this love's guise. The variant that tiptoes in, lingers luminous, reteaching respiration's grace. Reflecting on that fireside genesis, the evening of shared pages where he pivoted, voicing the unforeseen, I curve into quiet joy. That was rebirth's threshold, and I'd barter it for no other dawn.